I think we did it. We're live.
Unbelievable. How do we manage to do that every week?
I don't know. There's
Right?
already 3 people in here.
We've already
And
got
5
5
thumbs
thumbs up.
up.
How do see? That's popularity.
Yeah. They're waiting,
Yeah, they
chomping
are.
at the
Well,
bit.
Colleen Tabor was waiting there. John Mouts.
Colleen says, "Damn, number 2." To me, you look like number 1
Yeah,
right there.
number 1. Well, they're just talking amongst themselves. Dickie Farley. So what's going on, Dallas? Anything new and exciting? And you went to the Buick Nationals.
I did. I went to the Buick Nationals. I'll tell you something that was new and interesting that I haven't talked to you about.
Okay.
I had, remember my truck? I was saying I was getting 19.48 miles a gallon. All of a sudden, I started getting 16.
Yeah.
I figured out what it was.
Hold on, gas tank.
No, the caliper on the passenger side locked up. It's got 2 pistons, and one piston froze up, and it locked the brake pad against the rotor. Right.
I've had that happen numerous times.
Here is something interesting though. In 95, I guess, or 96, they changed the caliper setup to where they're held on with bolts, and the earlier ones are held on by like a
That
pin.
sandwich.
Yeah.
Yeah, that rubber. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, I burned up my caliper. Well, I burned up my pads. I'll go to town and get a caliper and a set of pads. I go to town, caliper, no problem. Reman, they had it on the shelf. Pads, on the other hand, a completely different story.
Okay.
Right? 7 part stores. The best one that I could get was a 2-month wait.
A 2-month wait?
2-month wait.
For pads?
For probably the most mass-produced truck on the planet.
See, it's all coming apart. Everything is coming off the rails.
Start
hoarding, guys. Start hoarding everything you get your hands on, anything you need, brake pads. 2 months for brake pads for
like a Ford F-Series truck from the 90s. I mean, come on. How did they make any more trucks than that? I don't think so.
No. Fubar is here. John Wilburn is John Wilburn. Did I see Ari? I might have seen Ari.
Well, that's not the end of the story, though, Tony.
Oh, okay.
Well, I finally get some pads. I find some on Amazon. Places got them. They're a little bit more than normal, but I could get them within a couple of days. So I'm like, sold, right? And then windshield wipers. I'm like, okay, it's time to replace the windshield wipers. It's been 4 years. I'll put some on it, and I buy some. They don't make any for the freaking pin assembly on it anymore. You cannot buy them. So now I'm looking for 96 and later wiper arms because they don't make them anymore because they got that little pin.
Yeah.
Right? They don't make the pin ones anymore. I gotta change it over to the hook style.
What I've done with the Chryslers, because I haven't had that style in a long time, is I disassemble it, I take the rubber out and put it in my old ones.
Oh, well, I could probably do that too.
Let's see. Rookwood says Fred Flintstone didn't need brake pads, and he's right. Fred Flintstone shunned things like that.
He didn't even need shoes.
No, he could do just fine with China cutting us off.
Yeah.
Did they even have China in Fred Flintstone's days?
I don't know.
Huh. Unfinished project. What's happening, man? Mr. Will, Curious Will, Cuda.
Wheelie King 71. Try buying wipers for a 70 D200.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. What I do is I just get, because they still sell them like, with that style rubber, just not with the mount. So you take it apart and you swap the rubber from the new one to the old one.
Anthony Perna's asking, how did I get 4 years out of wipers? Probably because I should have changed them 3 years before.
It's true. You used to be able to get wipers that last forever.
Right.
Right. I mean, I remember it was like change the wiper blades. How communist, pedestrian is that, right? But now they just come apart. They just stop working. 7 months, you turn them on, and it's like the rubber just falls off.
Yep, that's exactly what happened.
Nothing lasts anymore.
Yeah, hook and line fishing says Rain-X. What is a wiper?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I ended up doing. Hopefully it doesn't rain before I can find some hook type. It's got to be like 96, 97 F250, 350 wiper arms. They got a hook assembly on them.
Matt S is saying the 340 they required, turns out it's got TA heads with adjustable rockers and cupped push rods. Nice. That's a nice score, man.
Yeah,
sell those to a collector. Andy from Unities Motorsports is here. What's happening, brother? How's Casper coming?
Let's see. Hank Kill says, what's the stock gear ratio on an 8 3/4? Well, there was probably a lot of them offered.
Right. It just depends on what kind of car was it? What year? What car? What engine? And I can probably give you an idea.
Well, he wants 410s. So name something that would have had 410s. But see, aren't all the rear ends different widths and stuff like that for Chryslers?
Yeah, but the center section is going to be the same. Center section you can swap in and out.
Yeah, that's right.
If something with factory with 410s, you'd be able to find that with 6-cylinder pickup trucks, early 60s, mid 60s, 6-cylinder pickup trucks. You can find 410s. You can find 456s. I have to get my tobacco.
Oh, all right.
I'll be right back.
I'll hold down the fort.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Smacky's Garage says, I'm heading to a swap meet in New Hampshire this weekend to hopefully find some parts I can't get. Well, it just so happens I was at the Buick Nationals last week. That's where I was hiding at. And I ended up scoring some 1-year only intake manifolds, 65 300 4-barrel. Rockwards, the Buick show was actually pretty nice. I did a lot of swap meeting there. I met a lot of folks there that watch not necessarily this show, but all the other ones I've been on in this community. So thanks for stopping by.
Okay, Andy's saying Casper is at a standstill, needing Milo down to replace my oil pan. Well, we got time.
Oh, what's wrong with the oil pan?
I have no idea. Ask Andy.
Andy, what's wrong with the oil pan? I thought maybe you knew. Maybe he said something.
No. John is saying you hardly saw any 455s or turbo V6s.
Yeah, there was about I think only 3 there at the Nationals. Everything else had no motor in it because apparently they didn't make small blocks. I didn't get a haircut. I just didn't wear a hat today. I got halfway over here and I realized I didn't have a hat on.
You want a hat?
No, I'm all right.
Okay. Let's see. Cosmic Silence. That's deep. I heard somebody saying in the past he doesn't prime his engines after rebuild. Is it worth buying a tool before I fire up my flat top or small block Chevy? Just go for it. I've never done it. They don't do it at the factory.
I prime it. Yeah, the factory can afford to replace one because they just take it out and throw it aside. But I prime every single one of them, and that's the way. If you find any issues with the oiling system, you'll know it before you even start it.
I oil the pump. I use a good assembly lube, and I just let it rip. I mean, it's pumping oil before the motor will go 2 revolutions, and it's already pumping oil. But I have had them where there was an issue for whatever reason it wouldn't pick up oil, and I've had an engine run for 30 seconds, a minute on just pre-lube, assembly lube, and you take the thing apart and everything is just beautiful. So that happens enough times during the course of your life, and you say, well, you know what? Don't worry about it.
Plus, I'm taking apart the oil pumps, and I have to rebuild the oil pump and pack them full of grease, right?
Yep.
Which you don't normally have to do.
On your type that you do, yeah.
Right.
Wheelie King is saying, I get where Tony's coming from, not priming it, but it won't hurt anything to prime it. Well, exactly. It doesn't hurt anything. To me, it's just a step. Okay, so I've always dealt primarily with Mopars, and there's no easy way. Yeah, okay. I mean, you pop the gear out and use an extension, but it's just a pain in the ass because now you've got to redrop the oil pump drive and rephase it and everything, get the distributor back. And it's just to me, it's just not worth it.
Well, so Anthony Perna brings up a good point that a lot of people have been asking about, and I've been actually trying to think my way around this one too. Mm-hmm. He says, it's amazing how hard it is to get parts. I couldn't find a camshaft for my old 455 from any of the big companies. They all said they can't get blanks. I ended up getting a Melling cam off of eBay. So I've been looking at doing something a little bit different. I've been going a different route because I've been reusing a lot of camshafts and just putting new lifters on them. But now it's like getting a cam. Nobody has blanks, right? I got a cam that's like some gonzo homemade race piece. I mean, it was somebody custom made it years ago, but it's got like 638 lift and stuff for small block Buick. And I think I'm going to cut it down and just recut it, right? And then make it into something I want. But I was kind of wondering, what happens if you didn't have one of those? The way they used to do them old school was they'd weld them up,
yep,
right? And then regrind them. So I'm kind of wondering if I can have that done. I don't know if anybody can do that still. I thought it'd be kind of neat to do a video on that.
That's got to be a lost art. But I'll bet you'll get somebody. You'll find people who do unorthodox things, like maybe tractor pull people, or guys that are into oddball racing.
Right.
Right. Or oddball combinations.
Like the guys that run like like Bonneville with the straight 8 Buicks and stuff.
Right.
Where nobody has
or
a camcorder.
Vintage motorcycle races.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those are the guys. They'll be able to do it literally in the kitchen. You know what I mean? While they're making it
with a hand grinder.
Right, with a hand grinder. They'll weld it up, in between, right?
I just thought it would be kind of neat to do that and then make a parody video of all the stuff that's making in India. So you're making a camshaft at home with a hand grinder, right? And have chickens running around your yard, and you're like Americans, because that's what's funny is they always make fun of like the Americans is the ones wearing overalls with the chickens and stuff like that. But then you watch the videos from India, and they got freaking chickens running around while they're making an engine block.
But those guys get it done.
They do, and I don't see why the American wearing overalls with chickens running around can't get it done.
They don't have shoes. They have chickens, and they make all this stuff that we rely on,
including chicken sauté.
Look at Uncle Tony looking all bushy with his Starbucks.
High-end coffee. Let's see. Crane cams reground a cam for me a long time ago. Them cranes gone though. They have been since 2008. I just don't know if any of the big can manufacturers these days would even consider the idea of welding a cam.
No. That's a mom and pop cam grinder thing. You know what I mean? That's not. You're not gonna get a big.
Well, what's the old time ones? The ones that the throwback cam grinders, Schneiders.
Yeah, Norris, right?
Norris. I've never heard of it. Was Howard's part of the original startups?
Oh yeah, if you go back to those days when they were like these cam grinders running stuff out of like 2-car garages, yeah, that's what they were doing. They were. Starbucks is woke. Yeah, but I'm not. So their coffee tastes good.
What flavor coffee? Joe K asked.
I got the coffee flavored coffee.
I like coffee flavored coffee, except for I don't like going there to get coffee flavored coffee because it's the most expensive coffee flavored coffee on the planet.
I get deals.
Do you?
Yeah.
I'll bet you. I know Tony. This is probably just a cup that's left over, and he poured something in there from like a truck stop.
Right. Exactly.
You're making model of your truck, Dallas. Oh, it's a 94 Ford F-250, 2-wheel drive. Does have air.
Anthony Prentice says, Dallas, Joe Mandella's son Bernard grinds his own cams. Maybe he can help cut yours. Oh, there you go.
Huh. Well, I just thought it'd be kind of neat to do. Just take a stock cam and weld it, and then have it reground.
Did he move to Tennessee with Anthony? Did his son move to Tennessee with Joe?
Oh, Joe lived here in Tennessee?
Yeah, over by Cookville.
No way.
Yeah.
Before he passed away?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Let's see. Buck does it. Okay.
Travis, was that Travis Cuevas? So most people say a 360 FE should be converted to a 390. While I'm rebuilding it, am I wrong to do so?
Depends what you're using it for. I mean, if it's going to be a driver.
A truck motor, the 360 truck motor was not a bad motor.
No, it's shy a little bore, right? But if it's just a driver, something you throw in a pickup truck, maybe like just a set of headers like an RV cam, that type of deal, that's fine. It's a good motor to use.
68 Camaro SS would changing an 87 Ram Charger 4-wheel drive 3-speed trans to a later 4-speed increase miles per gallon enough to be worth it? No, they're both going to be a 1-to-1 transmission, unless you got an overdrive 833, right? And that's where that 4-speed would be beneficial.
I missed a question.
He asks, would change? Okay, so changing an 87 Ram Charger 4-wheel drive 3-speed trans to a later 4-speed trans increase miles. Oh, maybe he's talking about 3-speed automatic to a 4-speed automatic.
Yes.
Increase miles per gallon enough to be worth it.
Probably. Probably.
In that case, if it's an automatic, yeah, that probably would be worth it.
Anthony Prentice says he's in California. Mandella's son.
Oh. Oh.
What do we got?
Well, Travis Cuevas says he doesn't have the money for a diesel swap, but I really don't see a difference in the 390. You're going to see a torque difference. Well, actually, probably not in the 390. 390s weren't known for being monsters, right? The monsters would have been like your 428 category, right? That's where they had good torque, really good torque. There's nothing wrong with this 360 FE motor at all. The original engine was what, a 332, 352?
Yeah.
What was the first FE? 332?
No, wait, what was it?
352?
It might have been the 352. I'm not sure. Hemi Head, thank you for the super chat. Why do you reckon GM chose to have engine coolant run through their intake manifolds where in comparison Mopar didn't? Well, the small block Mopar runs the water passage through the front of the intake manifold. I guess on the General Motors, they run it front and back, but I guess it's just to equalize the passages at the back of the cylinder heads, because there's no water passages actually through the center of the intake manifold, just at the ends.
I think he's probably just using the intake manifold as a more metal for more heat sink.
Well, that's possible.
Right? I don't know.
Well, they have the crossover at the front and the crossover at the back, where the small block Chrysler only has it at the front.
Well, I know the Buick small blocks, the early ones,
have a separate manifold.
Well, actually, they ran instead of having exhaust coming across and heat the carburetor, it actually used water.
Okay.
To heat the carburetor, and that was why they had a wet intake manifold.
That would take a long time.
Right, but it does have water on 215 300. Buck does it. Hey, Dallas, I just bought a Buick with a 3.8 V6. What's your opinion on it? That's one of the best motors ever made. Me and Tony did a video on it not too long ago, probably a year ago, where that engine, we take it all the way back from the beginning at the 215 all the way up to your Buick Grand National, and then later on to when we determined that 2006 or 7 was the last year for that engine, and it ran from like 1961 to 2006 or 7.
Yeah, we did the whole video on the lineage of that. Loudbird says the first FE was 332.
332. Okay. And there's a reason why the FE lasted so long. I mean, dang, how long was it around? 15 years? 20 years? No, it ran to 77, right? So probably 57 to 77, so probably 20 years. I bet that's pretty close.
Let's see.
Or were they around before 57?
Motorhouse 77 Racing. Hello, everyone. Say hello to Brazil. Hello, Brazil.
Hey, Brazil, what's happening?
Danny Boyd says FE's last year was 76.
76? Okay. What was the first year?
What size was it in 76?
That was the 360s in a truck, that's what I remember. A lot of Ford trucks still had them. So 58 was the first year for them. So it went from 58 to 76. So it was damn near a 20-year run.
Joe K, have the 3.8s always been subject to intake manifold gasket issues?
Oh, not that I know of.
No, not that I know of either.
Is it a 3800? As far as I know, the 3.8s never had any problems like that. They were just the 3.8s when you.
Oh, he's thinking about he's talking about the later ones that use that plastic fucking gasket with the impregnated O-rings.
That's a GM thing. All GMs at that time had that problem. Like the Vortex Chevy trucks.
Right.
Oh God, man.
Yeah, but they started that on the 3800.
Did they?
Yeah, I remember those. Oh yeah, those are terrible. I wonder what possessed them to do that.
The plastic gasket with the O-ring, right? Yeah. Heat cycles aplenty. There's a point in time in like 2004 and 5, you could find a 96 to 98 Vortex Chevy truck. Every single freaking one of them on the road was leaking out of the intake manifold.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Will is asking, what do you consider to be the first big block Chevy?
409.
The Z11 mystery motor.
That was the first big block Chevy?
Yeah.
I thought the 409 was a big block Chevy.
Well, the 409 is technically it's a W series motor.
Right.
It has a combustion chamber in the piston and a completely flat cylinder head. The actual first big block Chevy, so you could say the 348 was the first quote big block Chevy, but the traditional big block Chevy, what we know as the Porcupine
Right.
Right. That was.
No, yeah, that would have been the mystery motor.
Yeah.
63, right?
No, 60. Oh, jeez, what year was that?
That was 63.
63 was actually, it was out there. 61 or 62. What year was it at Daytona? It was
I
63
thought that was 63, and then the following year was the Hemi came out, right?
Yeah. You're right. You're right.
Danny Boyd brings up the Ford 3.8s were head gasket failure champs. That they were. Remember like that Ford 3.8 where it was like in the Cougars and Mustangs of that time, and they all were blowing head gaskets.
I just did a video today about head gaskets, okay? And the first take of it that I did, so the one I put out was after I did two that failed. But I specifically talked about the 3.8 Fords and how every one of them had the head gasket, the passenger side front cylinder. I guess that was number one cylinder, or was it number five? Passenger side front cylinder. Driver side front cylinder, passenger side rear cylinder in the Cougars and stuff. And when they turn them sideways in the Tauruses and the Sables,
still the same ones though, but
still the same ones.
Yeah, I just remember them things like no lie in the early 2000s, like everybody had a blown head gasket on.
Oh, I paid my mortgage with that. That was how I put food on the table. Those Ford head gaskets. I ate them for breakfast. I had that job down to like 3 hours.
Really?
Yeah, it was a nightmare of a job.
Terry, that's all the guy's name is. Terry, Mr. Buick Man, do you have a YouTube channel? I do. It's called Mr. Rodder's Neighborhood. You can go on there and check out a bunch of Buick stuff.
Hemi Head, how did Keith Black find room to install a second set of spark plugs in the Keith Black Hemis? He didn't. That was done by, Chrysler originally was playing with dual plug motors back in '64. There's all the room in the world there. On the regular on those conventional cast manifolds, where that spark plug, the second spark plug goes, is a water jacket. But they cast heads that had that area blanked off specifically, put a second spark plug in there. And then all of the aftermarket heads had that area solid so you could drill and put a spark plug in there.
Dizzy Izzy says that we're looking healthy.
I feel healthy. I feel spry. I'm fat and sassy.
Sprightly.
Yeah. Fubar. There you go. Fubar just put it the
man, see, right? That Fubar's all over.
Fubar's the best. Fubar's the absolute best. And congratulations on being monetized.
Oh yeah, the AHRA Drag Racing History Channel got monetized. Well, it was monetized last year, but I finally just received a check.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. So now we officially have running out of the shop, circulating around the shop. We now have 4 monetized YouTube channels.
Oh, who's the other ones?
Everybody. Mopar Al is monetized. The Junkyard Jets are monetized. I'm monetized, and you're monetized. We're all monetized.
How'd them guys get monetized already? Holy cow!
They ain't playing games, man. They're on it. They're on it.
Man, well, Mr. Rodder's Neighborhood will be next.
Tyson King, thank you for the super chat. I got 2 BBD carbs for your advice for efficient 2-barrel 360, but can't get an adapter as the bolt holes overlap. Does that give you a better idea of my intake? Oh God. The bolt holes overlap. There's only 2-barrel small block Mopar intake manifolds that you're going to come across. The one for the 273, 318 that uses the small footprint for the small BBD, and then you've got the 360 2-barrel, which has the large footprint for the larger Carter and Holly carburetor. So you're going to have one of those two. Without that's the only 2 choices.
Smacky's Garage says, I'm almost monetized. Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations. Mitten Made Muscle. What's your thoughts on shovelhead engines in today's times in terms of reliability? Building from a bare frame who wants something old school but reliable. I'm an ironhead guy. I love ironheads, right? So an ironhead is just a small shovel. You know what? They have their quirks, they have their idiosyncrasies, but they're bulletproof. I mean, build it and have fun with it.
Northeast Dragways in the house. Fab Race Mod Repeat. That's Chris Cox. And speaking of that, I'm going to be at the track this weekend in Iowa. Got a 14-hour drive ahead of me. for their season opener, May the 21st. Los Cadaver says he paid $300 for a running 78 Challenger on Thursday.
Nice.
Is that the Mitsubishi Challenger?
That's a Mitsubishi one, yeah. Daniel Broly, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Isn't it cool when they just throw in random super chat with no question or anything?
Yeah,
but have some money.
He says message retracted. It's like kind of insert message here.
Yeah.
Daniel Brawley. Let's see. What would he want to know? No, the firing order for a Ford 302. There's two separate ones. Yeah, you need to find the one that you don't have.
And the cutoff year is 1986, right?
They went to the HO 50185.
That's the cutoff year for the firing order for the second firing order.
Yeah, but they had both of them at the same time.
Right, they overlap.
Right.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you're right. I remember that.
The hardest working man in drag racing.
Yeah, you are, man.
Oh, well, thanks. I'm glad somebody recognizes that. I don't know if I am or not. I had to take a nap today. I'm not normally a nap taker, but I had to take a nap because I'd worn myself out to the point of exhaustion.
Lobo GTX, is the Pooch Valiant in the shop to start the job? It's sitting on the side over here. It's outside. I'm not going to bring it in until Stubby wants to work on it. I haven't heard from Stubby. I know I'm going to chase him down, but Stubby, if you're watching this, let's get going with your car.
Oh, what are you supposed to do to that one? Just get running, driving?
He's supposed to do the work. I'm supposed to help him, supervise and guide him. You know, like
mentor
with other people, right?
Yeah. So it's like you're the junkyard jet daddy supervisor kind of thing, right?
Daniel Browley, hey Tony, can you discuss the two Mopar 4-speed transmissions and the differences and the advantages? I think you're referring to just the 23 and the 18 spline, right? Seriously, here's the difference and the advantage. The 18 spline is worth a fortune to people that have more money than they know what to do with, and the 23 spline will do anything that the 18 spline will do. And really, seriously,
well, generally, the more splines you have, the stronger it is.
What you would think. But no. According to Chrysler, the 18 was the stronger one. But no, there are differences in the front bearing. Oh God, off the top of my head, I don't remember the exact. But I've never bought it. Anytime I've ever come across an 18 spline, I've always just sold it to people who want 18 spline transmissions. The 23 will do the job.
Well, Danny Boy's putting up all the facts here for the 302 firing order for us.
Yeah, he's spitting facts. Oh my God. See, if I read that, I'm gonna have a stroke. I can't. See, I'm a Mopar guy. I can't. You know what I mean? 1843657
when I see all those numbers like that, it makes me think like 8675309. Jenny.
Like when in a moment of panic, when I'm rushed for information, let's say by a cop. Okay, it's like you know, give me information, and all I can say is 1843657. I can't. You know what I mean?
Where were you at 5 or 6? Kindergarten.
What's your name?
Hook, line, and fishing. I'm going to be at Humboldt County Dragway in Humboldt, Iowa.
Joe K, you should see if that Ask Uncle Tony guy wants to enter the No Name Nationals. He has enough subscribers. The Ask Uncle Tony guy doesn't want to go anywhere near a drag strip.
And the Ask Uncle Tony is not an automotive channel, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Is it an automotive channel?
It's in general.
Oh.
It's in general. It's going to be a more vlog style thing than.
That's what I thought. I thought it was just like virtually anything covered.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we're going to just feel it out and see how it goes. But I think it's going to become more of a generalized vlog sort of thing.
I think what it should be is like legitimate questions that you just grab off the internet and you give it a Tony DeFeo angle, right? Like a grumpy older mechanic angle, right? So like, hey Tony, how do you feel about, I don't know, pink soap, right? And then you give an answer like, pink soap, who the hell would waste their time on that, right?
But you know, the thing is this, right? It's like so we do this channel, right? This is a car channel.
Yeah, there you go. See, Joe Case gets it. Use that channel to vent.
Well, it probably will. Cabral said I dropped out of the Junkyard Nationals. Why did he say that? Why would he say that? Who cares what he said? So here's my problem is this, right? I have a lot of interests. You know, I have a lot of things that I like. You know, and cars are only like just part of it.
Right. Well, you like coffee shops, right?
Bro, I have this huge variety of interests and things that you know what I mean?
I cannot do anything but I'm like not a functional person outside of cars. I'm
Yeah,
not.
I was that way for a long time. I was that way for a long time. But I'm not anymore. And cars are only like just a fraction of my interests. And it's like this channel is great. You know, keep it going, keep growing it. But I have other things that I'm into. So I need a venue. I want a venue.
I would
for
definitely
that.
do just the other things. I'm telling you, I would take a legitimate question, one that's like everyone's pondering at that time, and then throw it. Why is gas so expensive? And then you give it Uncle Tony's take on it, right? And you should like stick your head out from underneath the hood and be like, because there's no more left on the ground. You got to go dig it up. And then that's it. That's your answer that you give.
Thomas Shirley is asking, what is the fastest you have ever rebuilt a V8? You're asking the wrong guy for that one, boy.
Dude, what is like minutes, right?
Yeah, minutes. I mean, like seriously, maybe 45 minutes, soup to nuts. While all the parts were still hot. I mean, you know.
Oh man, I don't know why people are saying Fords suck. Okay.
Rating Science 6. I see blah 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 on your thing. What about copper head gaskets and O-ringing the block and the deck? Yeah, I stopped at the MLS gaskets, and I didn't really want to get into like because there so many different ways. I mean, Ford had O-rings, you know, and like there are so many different ways. And I'm very familiar with the copper gasket stainless O-ring. But you know, you have to limit that somewhat. When we get somewhere down the line, when we get to a real extreme application, I just don't have any in my world right now to give an example of. We'll get into like things like the copper head gaskets and stainless O-rings, or stainless head gaskets and copper O-rings.
Hey, Tony in Dallas, did you hear that Dale Walker is drag racing Ratzuki again after 28 years? I don't know what Ratzuki is. I'm gonna go out.
I'm not. I'm drawing a blank.
I'm assuming it's a Suzuki with a big motor on it.
They are O-ringing the power strokes when they need a gasket. Terry CH, any words about politics and prostitution? Yeah, I could talk for hours about both of those things.
That's not what this live is about.
I can't do that on this channel.
That's where you get to Uncle Tony. Like, stick your head out from underneath the hood. Yeah. I invented the question mark. And then that's it. That's you got to say something, you know, older mechanic wise. Yeah.
No, I mean my interest range. I mean, I'm into see a lot of stuff that I'm into. Like people just had they would have no, you know. I'm very interested in economics. I'm very interested in psychology and things like that. And you can't do stuff like that on a car channel.
Here you go. Ruckworth says you should create a channel called Uncle Tony Male Gigolo.
Let's see.
Lot Burns says Buick does it. Is it sacrilege to park my Boss 429 next to my 69 Charger? I don't think so, because both of those cars would be like perfect examples of the best looking models that they made of those cars.
Uncle Tony, have you ever oopsied and lost your eyebrows? Oh, absolutely. God, I've burned my face a few times. Doug Narden, when you're firing a diesel, it's when you go to super duper high compression. Doug Jones, the 18 spline input shaft has a thicker spline, which should be stronger. But it should be. But have you ever seen a 23 spline input shaft have an issue? Because I haven't.
Well, and here's the logic behind that. Okay, think of it like an axle, right? Mm-hmm. When you get a factory axle, let's say the 9-inch Ford, what's a factory? 28 splines, 31 spline. Okay, and when you go to a racing application, you can't even buy a 28 spline. It's only like 33 splines and above, right? That's all they do, because they don't fool with the smaller splines or the smaller number of splines,
Right.
because they're weaker.
There's more surface area the higher the spline count, the more contact area there is.
There you go, bingo.
Psychology. Well, not just psychology, really, abstract psychology, neurolinguistics, programming, and stuff like that. I'm very interested in all those topics.
Those cadaver. Has anyone ever lost their clutch alignment tool after tightening the last bell housing bolt?
I've given up on clutch alignment tools.
Well, I've used them in the past, but I found I'd never have any luck with them. I do better just stabbing a sucker in, jiggling it around.
I'll tell you what I do. Right, I snug the cover in place, okay, so that you can still move the disc around, and then I'll just reach around, okay, and center the disc with my fingers.
With your fingers
against the donut,
yeah.
right, and then just lock it down, in a cross pattern so it doesn't get squeezed out one way or the other, and then I'll hook up the clutch linkage before I put the transmission in. So if it doesn't go in, if the tranny doesn't go in and make the splines like right away, I just have somebody jump in the car, hit the clutch, pops right in.
Huh.
Let's see.
Craig Davis, that's exactly what I was bringing up, was how come more axle splines is stronger, but manual trans input splines less is stronger? That's not true.
Yeah, I think there was just one guy in the Chrysler engineering department that just had this different idea and it stuck. But I have yet to see a 23 spline input. I've seen literally every other single part in every single other part inside one of them gearboxes bounce off the ground. I've never seen a problem with the input shaft.
I tell you what, I had a problem with an input shaft, but it was not like normally what you would think. I had a Ford AOD when I was racing my Thunderbird, and it was like a streetcar still. I had an AOD in it for a long time, a couple years, right? And I kept tearing them up. So I bought like the hardened input shaft, and it still had that pencil shaft in the center. And the last time I tore it up was in high gear. It just started smoking at high gear, pulling down the track. It literally was, the motor was pulling, and all of a sudden it just started revving higher and higher and higher, and the car wasn't picking up any speed. And I'm like, what is going on? And then you smell the tranny fluid, it's like burned, right? But when I took it apart, that pencil shaft literally would not come out of the torque converter, right? It had twisted those splines so tight in there as it twisted that you couldn't get it out.
Motorhouse 77 Racing, which is best? Turbo, nitro, NX? Oh,
nitrous oxide.
Oh, nitrous oxide or Pro Charger?
It depends your application. Each one of them has their own. Are you looking for just numbers? If it's just numbers, probably turbo is going to win.
Yeah, turbo is going to win. I like nitrous because of the simplicity, and it's related to what I'm familiar with, which is nitro. It's the same basic thing.
I like the torque from nitrous oxide. That's like probably the most addictive thing to that freaking, because everybody always talks about the number like 150 shot. It's giving you like a 250 shot of torque. And that's what makes it amazing. AOT is the Achilles heel of the MN12s. I think it's the Achilles heel of all of 90s Fords. I remember guys throwing big money at them, $3,500, make them work. And it's like, dang, a C4 is like $600.
But back to that question, I would say that the turbocharger is probably the biggest bang for the buck.
Well, it is today.
Yeah. The Pro Charger is probably the most reliable
and consistent.
Yeah, repeatable. That's more reliable, repeatable. I think, nitrous actually falls down the list because it's maintenance intensive.
It is, and and the hurt factor is high, right? Because you're dependent upon both of them solenoids. Let's think it like, and guys think of it like always leaning out motors and melting pistons, right? But let's think of it on the other perspective. If your solenoids go bad, either one of them, right? If the nitrous solenoid goes bad and floods the motor full of fuel, that's no bueno, right? If your If your fuel solenoid goes bad and floods the motor full of nitrous, that's even worse, right? So what do you? That's a tough gamut. And I've had nitrous solenoids stick where they won't open because you get too much bottle pressure. Because it's like, say you're at the track and you got it in the back and the trunk's closed, right? And then as the pressure builds from the heat on the back of the car,
Right.
it won't open the solenoid. And you're like, what the hell is going on? It's just boggy and blubbery. And you're like, what in the world is happening here? Yeah. But I don't know. I love nitrous oxide. Man, that is a fun power adder.
I'm learning it. Like I said, I spent the years that I spent in racing was really nitro. That was all I really knew about. It's all I really cared about. So nitrous oxide is something that I'm learning about now, and I'm not learning about it as fast as I wanted to. I thought by now I would be out there running it, using it regularly, but it's just not in the cards. There are too many other things going on. But I like nitrous a lot. But my opinion of it is nitrous has to be nitrous. I believe is the kind of person who thinks of their motor as being disposable. The kind of the same with nitromethane. You know, when you go that route, you look at the engine as being disposable. You just know you're going to be inside of it all the time, so you don't care. It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody.
Well, when I was racing nitrous, I had 302 Fords. If I'd blow them up, I'd go to the junkyard, get another one out of Explorer,
Right.
swap my heads, cam, go feed it some more nitrous. So raining slant sticks with a chance of cannonballs brings up a good point. I always thought the main reason folks looked for the 18 spline transmission was due to higher likelihood of them coming attached to close ratio racing gears.
So, you know, offhand, I don't know the ratio. I couldn't tell you the ratio spread on those off the top of my head. It's buried in there someplace. But it's been so long since I've dealt with them that I don't remember exactly.
Tyson King, you're asking what's my YouTube channel again? Mr. Rodder's Neighborhood, spelled out Mr., the word Mr., Rodder, like Rodders neighborhood. And it always comes up with Mr. Rogers. And had I known that it was going to be like that, that everybody put every episode of Mr. Rogers on YouTube, I probably wouldn't have picked that name because it gets screwed up a lot.
Mike Batista, every power adder reduces engine life. Big block all motor is the best way. It just depends. You know?
There you go. Fubar put up my link again. All right.
I mean, Fubar's amazing.
He's all over it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it decreases or increases engine life. It just how abusive you are on it, right? But the thing that I did was like I find myself nitrous is addictive as crap. Okay, it'll get to the point where the very first time you go out and spray it, you're like, oh man, you get all giddy and I want to go spray it, right? And you spray it and you're like, oh man, that was great. 6 months later, you're at the freaking drive-thru at McDonald's ordering a burger, doing a burnout on nitrous. Like you spraying it, giving it the hell in the drive-thru. And that's my problem was I always found that I was spraying it everywhere, man. And like 10-pound bottles, shit, I needed 2 20-pounders in series, right? You're wearing it out all the time.
Yeah, if I built an engine that I cared about, I wouldn't spray it.
Bottle Rocket is the perfect example. Right?
I don't care about it.
Right. What I'm getting at is like, it's the perfect low buck ride, and when you've attained everything that you can do with it, right?
Just spray one.
Spray it.
Right. Just keep spraying it, right? But that's kind of the whole point of that. Like if I built a nice 440 for myself, or a 3.3 or a 3.4, whatever it is, if I built a nice engine for myself, I don't want to abuse it with nitrous. You know what I'm saying? Even though I know it's cool, I would build a slot motor, something that you just don't care about. You know what I mean?
Right.
And just
leftover parts.
Right. Shove the fuel through.
Maybe that's what we should have as a nitrous showdown drag race, where it's literally like spray as much as you want, but everybody can claim your motor for $200. Right.
James Hot Rod says he has CH3NO2 tattooed on my arm. I have it tattooed on my soul.
Andrew Nelson is asking me about the Wally. That's not a Wally. That's the old age. When I bought the AHRA, this was the trophy that the guy was going to use for his association. This is what the this is actually a copy of the Iron Man, the IHRA Iron Man. So this is just a trophy from.
Yeah, the Wally has it standing next to a slick.
And if you want me to tell you about the Wally's not even really Wally.
Right.
Right?
No, it's I know. I know who it is too. I know that I can't think of the guy's name now. He was
he was actually a racer at the time.
Yes, yeah. If I'm not mistaken, he was a driver for the Bean Bandits.
San Diego.
Right, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. It's kind of the tip of my tongue. I can't remember his name.
He was the guy that posed for the sculpture.
What, you know who mine is? Cheryl Greer.
What do you mean?
My AHRA trophy
is Cheryl Greer?
Is Cheryl Greer.
Toughest guy in the world.
I thought it was cool that the dude I bought the AHRA from was making these trophies.
That's supposed to be Cheryl Greer?
No.
Oh.
Then he realized, man, why take what the IHRA already has? And he made a bust of Cheryl Greer, and they never gave out a trophy. And I ended up with the rights to that Cheryl Greer trophy. So I make Cheryl Greer trophies. That's what I hand out. We call them the Greer Grabber, right? Like when you have a racing event where you can get a Cheryl Greer trophy, it's a Greer Grabber.
There you go.
And we got one coming up next weekend at Jeffers Motorsports Park. You're going to be eligible to run for a Cheryl Greer trophy.
So what event do you have going on there?
That's just they're having a Memorial Day. I can't remember what they call it. Memorial Day extravaganza.
Wow,
or
Memorial Day already.
Yeah, I know. It's like ridiculous, right? It was just a few weeks ago. It seems like that we were talking about how much the weather sucked. That we can't wait till it gets warm. And now it's like to the point where you're like, you went and turned the air on, right? You know this room has no air, right?
Well, I got the door open and
the vent's blocked off. I need to come fix that before it gets really hot this year.
I still have the hole here I need to get through the roof. Benjamin, are the torsion bar setups on F-bodies as tough as the older style ones? Actually, they're tougher. Looking into Aspens for a cheap, fun option. Go for it.
Aren't they shorter?
They're different. They're L-shaped.
Oh.
They're L-shaped.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought those had shorter torsion bar.
Franco has a couple of good Cheryl Greer stories. Look at it, Franco. Type out a paragraph. I'll read it real quick. Did you ever see his Match Bash car?
With the Mustang?
No, it was a Mopo. It was a B-body.
Oh, I don't think
the tension car.
I have seen the tension car.
So
orange.
So it started out as a A990 car, right?
Mm-hmm.
He altered the wheelbase on it. Okay. Then he had an accident with the thing, and it crumpled like one of the quarter panels. So he cut the back of the car off and shortened it, and then he shortened it some more until finally there was no back of the car. Like it was just the axle, the back window, and the taillights.
Rude Mopar dude says, "Get Frank on to tell his story."
We got to do something with Franco. He's a wealth of like East Coast nitro like history and yeah, we definitely got to do something with him.
Creekside Garage. I had a milling oil pump fail on a Cleveland this week. The gears weren't meshing. It was just spinning the out gear.
Hemihead 68. I subscribe to Dallas's YouTube channel, but what's Tony's other channels? Ask Uncle Tony. It actually started out as we were doing it with Crystal, my daughter-in-law, Crystal, and she's been busy. She's in real estate and she's got 2 little kids, and she can't commit to making videos. So we decided, listen, you just do life, and I'll keep the thing going. And when you're ready, come back and we'll rock. So that's what that channel is. It's once Crystal comes back, it'll be but it's called Ask Uncle Tony, and I've been posting some motorcycle content on there. Levi, thank you.
He says, Tony in Dallas, I'm at 371 subscribers, only 129 left. I hate using my GoPro, Tony. Don't feel bad. It's really awkward using my phone. It's better for me. But there you go. Run over to Levi's Backyard Performance and give him a sub. He's trying to buy your sub.
Yeah, he'll send you $5 if you sub. No, he won't.
No, he'd be broke.
Levi's 129 subs from Freedom.
Yeah, but that makes him eligible for the No Name Nationals, right? And I feel like the No Name Nationals, since I took a whole week off, it's fallen by the wayside. It seems like.
Really?
I don't know. Well, because I'm talking about it most of the time, a lot more, right? And then now it's like we're not talking about it all that much because it's not on the. It wasn't at the forefront of my mind during the Buick Nationals. It was like sell junk, sell junk, sell junk, sell junk. Oh, that's pricey. That's nice. I'm gonna buy junk, buy junk, buy junk, and then sell junk. So
Matt has. Tony, back in your magazine/Nitro days, did you ever think you would survive to see 60? Absolutely not. And I mean, to be honest with you, at 59, I said, there is no way I'm going to see 60. So like, here we are. And I'm like, I'm at 60. And I'm like, I am so on borrowed time. You have no idea.
Yeah, see, Jared Wilburn's like the opposite of me about the No Name Nationals. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. You're and I can totally sympathize with you because when I was in my 20s, it was like, oh, I'm gonna die young anyway, you know. And then you never think about getting old, like growing old.
No. Need Metal, thank you for the super chat. Have either of you tried the cryo treatment? I've done some rods and gear sets. Can't quantify it though. Which doctor may have worked as well? What do you think?
Cryo treatment, okay. There's two trains of thought on that. Not necessarily just cryo treatment. There used to be one before the cryo treatment called was a vibration table.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you ever see that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense. I just don't. All right. Here's what I don't like about it. They say, yeah, it aligns the molecules, right?
Right.
How does it not change the shape?
Well, it's doing it on a molecular level.
Well,
then, and you may have to, let's say, remachine a crank afterwards, right? But I don't think all parts should be like
cryogenically treated.
Depends on the application.
Well, harder's not always better.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
It's like okay, perfect example. You go out and buy a street rear end gear for your car, right? Hardest coffin nail. You go out and dump the clutch on that sucker with some drag slicks on it and just spitting teeth out the back. Mm-hmm. You go buy a Pro Gear, and the Pro Gear is softer. Right? You drive it around on the street, it's worn out in a year.
Right.
But it doesn't spit the teeth out the back when you dump the clutch. It's the perfect example. Cryogenically treating stuff, I don't see where it could hurt. It just makes everything cost a lot more. Now, I have seen where diesel guys have been doing axles.
Okay.
Because no one makes an axle for a 14 bolt or a 10 1/4 Sterling, right? So not like a aftermarket race axle. They do make 4-wheel drive off-road axles, but cryogenically treating those 4-wheel drive off-road axles has made them last a lot longer. So that to me is enough justification to probably do it on parts that, you know, like you can't find, nobody makes, right? Like say, I don't know, that the one-off 1 year only Ford MEL engine, you know, that's you can't get parts for anymore. Get your crank treated, you know. But I think those things, I don't really know. The jury's still out, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know either. I mean, I'm familiar with the basic idea. I would just be leery about tightening the molecules on everything.
I know how to do this. You buy the cheapest, junkest thing that you can find, some Chinese crap piece, right? That it pulls the threads out when you torque it down to spec and all that stuff.
Right.
Cryogenically treat it and see or cryogenically treat another one exactly like it and see how it happens.
Yeah, but we don't have the ability to do that.
I just need some cheap junk thing.
But the cheap junk thing is easy, but how about the equipment needed to cryogenically treat it?
Why can't we cryogenically treat it? You got a nitrous bottle?
Is that enough?
I think a couple nitrous bottles.
Oh, jeez, I don't think it's that easy. I don't think it's that easy.
Maybe we just take it somewhere and have it cryogenically treated in a cryo treat plant.
That could be an interesting.
Max Wedge Dick Dashley says he outlived all of his crazy friends.
Yeah, I've got people dropping dead all around me.
Man, you have no idea. I had to go to my buddy's funeral. Or not his funeral. It was worse than that. It was like
Worse than a funeral?
Oh God! It was 2 weeks ago. It was the day after our last live. I got a phone call that one of my buddies had a stroke, right, and that he wasn't going to make it, and I needed to be there if I wanted to see him again.
Right.
And then I drove 8 hours to Illinois, walk in there to watch this dude die, take his last breath.
Oh, right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's fucking crushing, man. Crushing.
How old was he?
61.
Yeah, I see a lot of young people checking out with strokes.
Well, it was the same thing with Jim Bennett, right? Same kind of deal.
And it couldn't possibly have anything to do with this.
Of
course not. Of course not.
I don't know if either one of them guys got that.
Hemihead, thank you for the super chat. Doesn't a diesel engine head gasket, generally speaking, have to withstand a harsher environment than a gasoline engine? Yeah, diesels operate in their own environments and they have their own issues with head gaskets. Absolutely.
Well, especially the older the diesel is, the worse off the environment is, and that's you'd think it'd be the other way around with a turbo and all that, but the early diesels didn't have turbos and they had like 22-to-1 compression, right? And then you go to today's diesels and they're like 16-to-1 or 14-to-1. But then they apply it all with boost, right? So and the engine runs off of detonation, right? So
crazy ones do, yeah. The ones that launch out of the frame rails.
Yeah, well, thanks, Raining Slant 6. Yeah, oh shit, that was the worst freaking weekend.
Byron Ross, do you ever use 3D printed parts? Byron, that is going to be a huge part of the car guy.
I think future. 10 years from now it will be.
Yeah, that is going to be a huge part of the car guy future.
I was actually talking to somebody at the Buick Nationals about this.
Really?
Yeah, because you're talking cars that are now like nobody celebrates a 1998 Regal, right?
No.
So if you think about it, most of the cars that are celebrated like at the Buick Nationals would be 50 years old or older, right? And most of the parts are getting to the point where they're hard to come by. And there was a lot of discussion that every plastic part could technically be 3D printed at your house for your old antique car.
Yeah, they do taillights and emblems.
The whole nine.
Right.
And I thought that was a pretty interesting thought, that if you could actually just have somebody that invented the XYZ format for your printer, you could poop out parts left and right, repair parts for these cars.
Well, here's the thing: all of the common parts that we deal with now, right? Reproduction stuff and aftermarket parts all come from overseas, right? Everything comes from overseas. Well, overseas is now dropping the hammer on us. You know, we've been fighting World War IV now for the last 30 years, right? And we have now lost World War IV. It's that simple, okay? They're pulling the plug on us and it's over. So we're going to have to reboot manufacturing in this country from ground up. And it's going to take a long time.
But it is things like that that's going to do it.
But exactly. So going forward, to be a mechanic or to be in the car world, that whole 3D printing thing is going to become more and more and more important. It's going to become eventually like we're all going to revolve around 3D printing stuff, but we're just not there yet.
Well, what would we call it? It'd be like Cuba's hot rodding to our hot rodding today, right, in the United States. So it's going to be similar to that, where it's going to be take parts off of this and make it work kind of stuff. And then the guys that have all the information, that know that a Jeep Cherokee steering box will bolt on a GMA body, those are the ones that's going to rule.
Zero saying World War IV. Well, glad I work in parts hoarding begin. Yep. Hoard, man, hoard, because it's all going to dry up this year.
There you go. Thumper saying he's got a Jeep box on a 65 GTO.
Zach Roberts saying he works in a nuclear industry, and we often 3D print tools because it's much easier and faster anymore. Yeah. But how cool
that
is that?
That would be the industry that I would think the 3D printed stuff would not be in.
Well, you know, the thing is, when we think of 3D printing stuff,
I don't know what kind of tools they use, though. I mean, like.
Yeah, well, we think of a Gen Z guy sitting at his computer, like, you know, like doing his bomb. You know what I mean? 3D printing a bomb. It's like we don't really think of it as being, you know, like a but it's not. It's actually the metal 3D parts.
Oh yeah.
And
I don't see why you couldn't just build an entire whatever you wanted that was out of metal by welding it. Just weld it. That's all you're doing is adding molten metal somewhere, right?
Yeah, it's micro welding. Two Hacks Garage. We really need to just manufacture more goods in America. Well, gee, you think? I mean, seriously, we've been gutted. The globalists have literally gutted us, and now we have to start over from scratch. But there are things that have to happen first, and they're going to happen now. They're happening now.
Okay, this may sound dumb, but I remember seeing this, I don't know, 20 years ago. There used to be a channel. Well, there actually used to be a TV show called Orange County Choppers. I'm sure everybody watched it at one time. He was in the process of, I can't remember what the old man's name was, right? But the old man that liked to throw stuff and yell all the time, he went and found stamping machines. Remember that episode?
I don't really remember. Okay. I remember the show.
He was finding stamping machines for gas tanks and fenders for his bikes. And he figured if he brought it all in-house, that he could save a lot of time and money. And he could, right? You could cut the middle guy out making all your own stuff. It was a logical thought on his part. The problem was he was competing against the Chinese directly over here buying all the stamping machines in 2004. So where do you think we're at in 2022? Right? And it's like, oh, man. The writing was on the wall and you saw it. Yeah, Paul Sr., that's him.
French Onion saying eventually you'll just have a scanner and all the dimensions and 3D print it. Yeah, I mean, well, the material has a lot to do with it too. You know, you have to really get the right materials. You know, you can 3D print, let's say, a simple casting. You couldn't 3D print like a crankshaft or a connecting rod. So at least with our current, you know what I mean?
Well, Franco, he wasn't. I don't know if he was building the chassis. I'm talking about the stampings for like the gas tanks and the fenders. That it's just a stamping process.
Bill McKeiska, thank you for the super chat. UTG, in your opinion, are the old Mopar small block police bypass hoses worth the money buying new old stock or just buying regular rubber ones from the parts store better? Regular rubber stuff from the parts store is junk. I just did that video on Kathy Swinger the other day. I mean, brand new hose from Napa, right? And it says made in the USA right on it. I should bring the hose in. It says made in the USA. It's right on from Napa, made in the USA, right on the freaking hose.
Speaking of that, I'm sorry, your Cherokee was dumping something out front when I went out.
That's the condenser.
Did you have the air running already? Yeah. Are you doing air already?
Yeah, I put the AC compressor and a water pump in it the other day. So yeah, man, if you can find new old stock, buy it. The new stuff is hit and miss at best.
Rude Mopar dude saying hemp, grow it, harvest it, make 10,000 products. Franco said USA, a small island off the coast of Japan.
Rockwatch saying so now steel comes from China to places like Vietnam, then to the USA. I know.
Yeah.
French Onion, that hose must not be ethanol rated. No, you're wrong. Why are all of the other hoses that I have and that I use, I have no problems with? And why is it that when I have a good pliable piece of 20 or 30-year-old hose, and it does happen, right? I've got milk crates full of like hose links and stuff like that I save because I hoard stuff like that, and I never have any problem with ethanol gas whatsoever. People keep throwing that out there. Oh, it's the ethanol gas, it's the ethanol. No, it's not the ethanol gas. No other hose in that fuel system has been affected by it, and some of it. Actually, the length of hose that goes from the body of the car, from the fuel line that's attached to the body of the car to the fuel pump is original hose. It's 52-year-old hose, and it's been submerged in ethanol gas for the 10 years that I've had that car and driven it, and it is fine. So no, it has nothing at all to do with the ethanol and the gas. It has to do with the quality of the rubber.
That's funny that you say that. I have an entire shelf in my garage dedicated to old hoses.
Yeah.
Right. And I literally, you've seen my start stand, right? It's literally like a bunch of cobbled together old hoses to make it fit.
John Wilburn, I know someone who tried to grow a crop of hemp. They found it tougher than expected. I have a friend of mine. Her name is Colleen. And she actually had a lot to do with lobbying to get all of these hemp prohibitions and whatnot lifted. She's and she was a big CBD advocate. So yeah, I'm actually pretty close to that whole thing. Hemi Head 68, explain to us again your philosophy on when you change your oil. Did they hear you say you don't change it until like tens of thousands of miles? No, if I don't care about the motor, I don't change it. So in other words, like
just add some.
Right, I just add it whenever the light goes on and the motor starts knocking. I take some old oil because I save waste oil. I take old oil and I pour it in and I just drive it. But I do that on engines that I do not care about, right? So like the engine is the Jeep, and the Jeep is a perfect example. The engine in the Jeep, it's got like 170,000 miles on it.
It was slapping when you got
right.
piston slap.
When I bought it, it's got a piston noise. Tuck, 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 tuck. It's got a busted piston. Now, why would I bother wasting the time or the energy or the effort on an engine that's eventually going to just eat that piston when I have to rebuild it? Screw that. So for the last 40,000 miles I've been driving it, the oil light, the gauge falls off, the check gauge's light goes on. It's all right, got to throw some oil in. So I grab a gallon of waste oil and I throw it in there and I drive it for another 10,000 miles before the light goes down or the thing starts knocking, and I throw another gallon of waste oil in it. Because why would I waste the time, the energy, the money, just the headspace of maintaining an engine that's doomed, that's going to come apart? Now, if I do rebuild the engine, and I eventually will, then it'll go on a regular, let's say, 5,000 to 8,000 mile oil change interval. So not all engines are treated the same. It just depends on the engine. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes total sense. Like during my race season, I think I told you I do 5,000 miles a month, right? I change the oil every month, like clockwork. The beginning of the month, I'll drain the oil and I'll change it. I stick to that. But yeah, if it's something I don't care about, I don't know. My first car was a 81 Regal with a 350 Buick in it, right? And it had lifters that were collapsed. And it was a lot more pain in the ass to disassemble the engine and pull the lifters out when I could just run old motor oil in it and the lifters would not collapse, right? And then I just add oil as needed.
Oh, it's knocking. Let me throw a gallon of oil in there. No problem. Now, the other one, the one in Mrs. Landy, there's another one. That motor's got like 1 million miles on it, right? So I drove that car for about, I don't know, 8 or 10 years. And I changed the oil twice in it. That was once. I'm sorry. I changed oil once. Kat changed oil once. And all at a time. Why? Because the motor is like wore out. It's done. It makes like 45 horsepower. So why am I going to keep maintaining this? No, just all I need this thing to do is just make the car mobile. So and I expect every day that it's going to lay down. And I was like, oh great, it laid down. That's my excuse to get dirty, pull it out, and swap in a new one or rebuild it, do something fresh. So why would I bother maintaining that engine? Does that make any?
Bear Rose Garage says, I have a 94 Explorer I bought for $600 for the rear end. It runs on 5 cylinders. I'm waiting for it to die so I can strip it.
But it will not die. Right, Bear Rose, I know. I go through the same exact thing, right? Well, I get these things, I'm like, just please die already, right? Because you can't justify going through all that time and expense and effort when it still runs, it's still mobile. So I think, oh, go, you know.
Well, see, here's a northern thing that a lot of people from, I don't know, middle United States down might not even know. But in the north, in the wintertime, you stop driving your regular daily and you go buy a winter beater.
Yeah.
Right? And the winter beater,
It was the
literally
best.
everybody would share them around.
Right.
And most of the time, you didn't expect it to make it through the winter. You'd find a $400 or $500 car,
Right.
and you would drive it. I mean, quarter panels falling off, rust through the doors. It's not something that you would drive to like a funeral or anything like. But you'd take it to work every day. You know you're going to work. You know the roads are going to be salted, and you'd get this winter beater for $400 or $500. And if it made it through the winter, great. What would happen is you'd sell it for $400 or $500 in the springtime to somebody else that was looking for a winter beater, because there'd be guys he'd always have the guys that would look for a winter beater in October. And he always had the guys that would look for a winter beater in March, right? In March, you got the good deals. So then you park it behind your house, let it sit for a year. And would you change oil in that? No, you would go out there and start it up when winter came. And you drive that sucker to work, never changing the oil from the guy before you.
We had community winter beaters. We had this one station wagon called the Mule. It was a 66 Chevy. It had no floors. I mean, like 0 floors, right? And no brakes. Okay, no exaggeration. If Kathy's watching this, Kathy can confirm this, right? This is the truth. This car had no brakes. Like, I don't even think there was a master cylinder in it. The pedal
it just swung.
If I'm
like
lying, if I'm making this up, Kathy, this thing, the pedal just flopped around on the floor. It did absolutely nothing, right? And we kept at this gas station, and it was the car. If you needed to do something or whatever, you grab the Mule and go. And it even said the Mule on it.
It was like painted with a brush.
Yeah. And one of the first dates I took Kathy on, right? She was like 15 when I got her, and I took her to a car show in Manhattan. And my car I had a 69 Charger, I had a 446 back then, and it was down, right? So I said, well, I got this date, this blonde, I got to
take the Mule.
Oh, so I went and I grabbed the Mule, right? So I drove it to Manhattan. I went and I picked her up at her house. Okay, there's no brakes. The way you would slow this thing, I had a power glide, and you'd slow it down, you'd shift it in reverse. Right, when it almost came to a stop, you'd throw it in reverse and stand on the gas. This thing had no exhaust system either, right? And no floors. The bottom of the dashboard was mud stalactites. Okay, so I pick her up at her house. I hope she's listening to this, because you'd say, well, he's bullshitting, right? But it's all me, it's the truth. So I pick her up at her fucking house, right? She gets in the car. She says, "What's this?" I says, "Oh, it's the Mule. You'll learn to love this car." So as I'm talking to her, I forget now, because I've got this beautiful blonde sitting in the car.
There's no front seat.
I forget.
Or no front floor.
Yeah, I forget now that it's got no brakes. Okay, so I says, "Oh, I got no brakes." So I downshift, but it was late, and I was coming into this intersection hot. So I swerved onto the sidewalk, and I took out a stop sign. I used the stop sign to stop the car.
Right.
Folded this thing straight over, put it in reverse, back up. But I drove that car from Staten Island over the Verrazano Bridge through Brooklyn into Manhattan, went to the show, drove it home, 0 brakes.
And I can picture this car being the 100% reason they did safety inspections in New York. They implemented safety inspections, right?
Squirp, thank you. Tony, do you build your own transmissions? Sometimes. I would love to see some of that content, especially old school automatics. It's a main gap in my skill set. Well, we're going to swap over the guts from one 727 to another 727 tonight, I think, or maybe tomorrow. I don't know, but I got to get it done for Slag Hammer.
This one
doing transmissions.
We should find somebody that knows how to do manuals and have them go through a manual.
I do my own.
Your own manuals?
Sure.
Well, I got my T10. I need to pop the side cover and look and see if it's all top notch, 100%. Yeah, well, I can see the Mule being and when you live in a big community, I guess it probably got passed around from your car buddy to car buddy to car buddy, right?
There was a clique of maniacs that hung out at this gas station. We all hung out at this gas station. It was God, Vinnie Myers. Guy's name was Vinnie Myers. It was on Arthur Kill Road, right across the street from the dump, and it was like an empty lot.